Hi guys. Chapter 17, the last chapter of the book. So exciting. We've worked so hard to get there. 300 pages. This might be the longest book some of you have ever read. Hopefully not. Well, you know what? I'm not judging, right? Some really good books are really short. I hope that you've enjoyed it in some way. I hope that it's made you think, wow, reading is awesome. Or at least that you haven't hated it. Yeah, I love Purple Hibiscus. I've read it a gazillion times. I'm not going to stop reading it anytime soon. So I'm really always happy that I get to share it with my students. So we've come to the end of the book. Still, I can't let go. I love this book. Okay, so before the chapter begins, there's a title page that says A Different Silence, the Present. So throughout the book, we've seen these pages, these little breaks between different sections. These happen normally around time jump, okay? So, like for example, after the first chapter, we had Before Palm Sunday, and then we had the one for After Palm Sunday. I think those might be the only ones. Anyway, so we have another jump, and it says the present. Now, we don't know when the present is. We're like, weren't we in the present, right? Because we already flashed back to the past, so we weren't sure. So we have to find out when we read. When we finished chapter 16, it was April 1995. We don't know where we are. All right, so the first sentence of the chapter says, the roads to the prison are familiar. So you might be like, why does Cambilly keep driving to the prison? Well, remember that at the end of chapter 16, Jaja confessed to save Mama. Poison was found in Papa's body during the autopsy, and Jaja confessed. So we can assume she's going to visit him. All right, then we have a new character who is introduced. His name is Celestine. That is a man, even though we might think, oh, that sounds like Celeste, which is more of a woman's name we consider, but that's a man, Celestine. He replaced Kevin. Remember, Kevin was Papa's driver, Papa's spy. Mama fired Kevin. You go, Mama. Women's History Month for a few more days, right? Like, goodbye, Kevin. Celestine, in addition to not being Papa's spy, he's caring. And Cambilly says, like, she sees the way he looks at Mama, and he seems to wish he could make Mama whole. Now, what does that mean? Well, Mama's not doing so great. But before that, Cambilly, right? How has Cambilly changed? Well, at the start of the chapter, we see that she's telling Celestine what to do. She appears to be the head of the family now. Mama is not strong enough to be in charge. Jaja's in prison, so Cambilly has taken charge of the family. A big difference because she's having to assert herself. She's having to have confidence. She's speaking up. So she is now like almost fully independent, right? Because her father died. She takes care of her mother as if her mother's her child. So her role has completely shifted in the family. Now, what's going on with Mama? Well, so remember, Mama typically wears a wrapper, which is the cloth that she wraps and ties around herself. It ends up looking like what we would consider a maxi skirt. Cambilly says that Mama's wrapper, aka her skirt, is often loose and slips, and it makes her seem like an unkempt woman at the market. So if we didn't know what unkempt meant, we could define it. And it means having an untidy or disheveled appearance, okay? So she doesn't look like she's taking care of herself. She definitely doesn't look like a wealthy woman, which we know she is, or at least she was before Papa died. So we might want to wonder what's going on with that. Essentially, Mama's not taking care of herself. So Cambilly explains that what happened was Mama told everybody that she killed Papa. Mama didn't want Jaja to go to jail for her. Mama didn't want him to take the blame. She told everybody. She even wrote letters to newspapers, but no one believed her. No one believed her that she would kill her husband. And so that kind of led her to lose her mind a little bit. No one believed her. Her son's in prison. She, took this great risk of killing her husband, but she did it to save her family, not to have her son suffer. So that was really hard on her. Cambilly also says she's painfully skinny and she has blackheads the size of watermelon seeds. Okay, so Mama's not really taking care of herself. She's struggling. She's guilty. She just feels awful about the way things turned out. Now, Cambilly and Mama are going to the prison together to the jail, but that's unusual. Normally they go on different days. So they go visit him every week, but they go on different days. Today they're going together because Jaja is getting out. So now we have to remember way back to the start of the book, the end of chapter 2, when there's a military coup, when the military overthrows the president who was democratically voted in, and the military is in charge. Now remember that Papa's newspaper was always very critical of the coup. Papa's editor, Ade, who was imprisoned and tortured twice, and then killed by a mail bomb. Additionally, Auntie Fuma lost her job over this because she was critical of the government and that, student riots and all of that. So it's part of how Auntie Fuma lost her job. So this military coup was really important in the book, but it was kind of in the background the whole time. So the head of state was the man in charge. He wasn't elected, so he's not the president, but he was the head. Well, he has died now. So whenever this president is, he's died. Camberley says that he died atop a prostitute, foaming at the mouth and jerking. So essentially, he had a stroke or a seizure while he was with a prostitute. Scandalous. It's meant to show us like a symbol of his corruption, that this man who took over the country, like he was bad. Like we already know that he had Ade killed. He did all this stuff to the university. Auntie Fuma lost her job. We know he was bad, but the way he died is meant to be like the icing on the bad cake. Okay. Or like maybe the poop on top of the bad cake. He's bad too. All right. So now that he's no longer in charge, it turns out that Jaja can be released. So the head of state didn't like Papa because of his newspaper. The head of state had Ade killed. And so, sorry, I'm just trying to make this little notification go away. Got it. I don't know if y'all can see that. Anyway, so because there was all these issues between Papa and the head of state, Mama and Kambili, Jaja's lawyers have actually gotten Jaja labeled as a prisoner of conscience, which that is an actual term for a person who is imprisoned for disagreeing with the government. So the idea is like this person didn't commit a crime, but the government didn't like them, so they came up with a way to lock them away. So what they're doing is they're saying, you know what, the head of state killed Ade Coker. Maybe he had something to do with Papa's death, and then they framed his son and locked him away to like further punish that family for their government point of view. So Jaja's getting out of prison for this reason. We know that's not what happened, but it doesn't matter. Jaja's getting out. Hooray, hooray. So then, if you're wondering, like, what happened to Papa's money, Kimberly mentioned that he gave half of it to the church, but there's still plenty left. And even though Papa was very anti-bribery, that was mentioned a few times, he wouldn't take them, he wouldn't make them. But Mama and Kambili are like, whatever. And they're using his money to try to get Jaja out of jail. They're paying for lawyers, they're paying guards, they're doing all sorts of stuff, but Jaja has still been in there. Now, on the way to the prison, Kambili asked Celestine, the driver, to play the Fela tape. Now, remember that Fela Kuti, is Amaka's favorite. He's one of those culturally conscious musicians that she really likes. I put a link in here to one of his most famous songs, Water Get No Enemy. I really like it. It's 9 minutes long. It's up to you. It's more of like kind of what we would consider jazz, instrumental, but at the end there's some singing. It's pretty cool. Check it out. All right. So back to the book. Sissy, remember the family's sort of helpmate. She left to get married, but she still checks on them and she trains the new maid and cook. Kambili, in the meantime, she went to Nsuka by herself. She visited the new family in Auntie Fuma's old apartment. She talked to strangers, you guys. She knocked on the door. She knew Auntie Fuma wasn't there. Auntie Fuma's in America. But she's like, hey, you know what? This place was important to me. Knock, knock. I'm Kambili. My family used to live here. I bought you some fruit. Like, that's insane. Oh my God. Kambili is so different. All right. Then on page 299, she says, Nsuka could free something up in your belly that would rise up to your throat and come up as a freedom song, as laughter. So this is making something clear that maybe we haven't put together so far. There are key moments in the book where Kambili laughs, and laughter is a symbol of freedom, just like the purple hibiscus was a symbol of freedom. So Nsuka, the home of the purple hibiscus, the place where Kambili learns to feel joy and to laugh, that's a symbol of freedom throughout the book. So it's interesting that she goes there and she talks about this right before they go to tell Jaja he's about to be free from prison. So that quote's a cool quote for your essays, perhaps. And it's a simile. Now, you guys might be asking, what about these essays after spring break? Okay, that's when we're doing it. All right, so Jaja's situation and how has he changed? Well, he's in jail, right? We don't know how long he's been there yet, but we'll find out. He's in a cell so crowded that men have to sleep standing up. I put a link down here to an article. Oh, that's way further down. Okay, I put a link to an article that I found about prison, the specific prison he would have been in. If you're interested, I suggest you click on that. Anyway, it's not right. Like, no one wants to be in prison. Prison in America is not great, but prison in Nigeria is extra not great. Let's put it that way. The cell is so crowded, they have to sleep standing up. He had been in a private cell for a while, thanks to Mama and Kimberly's bribes, but then they said he spat in a guard's face for no reason at all. Why does that look like that? Nope, that's right. I think it's his friend. It's freaking me out. He spat in a guard's face for no reason, and he was sent back to the cramped cell. Now, you got to think about this. Do you think he would really spit in a guard's face for no reason? Or a guard might say, he spat in my face for no reason. So, I mean, you know, take that with a grain of salt, whether or not he actually did that. All right, and then it says that he has been flogged with koboko. And so I looked that up, and this is a koboko. I did not look up the pronunciation, so I apologize for that. It might not look like a big deal here, but it's essentially a whip, but instead of having one whip, one strand, I don't know the proper term, it has multiple. So with one hit of this whip, instead of getting hit in one place, you get hit like however many of these there are, you get hit multiple times. It's much more painful. So his back is covered in puffy wounds. So he's basically scarred all over his back. Kambili notes that his shoulders, she talked about how they had gotten strong and he had started getting some muscles when they were in Nsukka and he was gardening. His shoulders are sagging. He's weak. It's not like what we see in the movies where you get to work out and get buff in prison. He's in a cell standing all day. Like, he doesn't have that opportunity. All right, so then we find out that he's been in jail for 31 months, okay? 36 months is 3 years, so almost 3 years. So he has been in jail for almost 3 years. He was 17 in the book, so he's 20, or almost 20, you know. He's a man now, but he's had those formative years between 17 and 20 in prison. His status has been awaiting trial this whole time. He was never tried for killing Papa, so he's not innocent or guilty. Yes, we know he's innocent, but in the terms of the law, he's just waiting. If you go back to question 1, now we know that this chapter takes place almost 3 years after chapter 16. So it's either early 1998 or it might be late 1997. They don't really give us the exact dates, but it's 3 years later. So Kambili was almost 16, so 3 years later, she's almost 19. She's 18. So we can say Kambili is 18. She's an adult now, you know, very young adult, and Jaja is also an adult. So that's interesting. All right. So pages 300 to 301, Kambili gives us updates on basically everyone else. She has been writing letters back and forth with Amaka. Amaka says, like, at first she was writing letters to everyone, trying to get Jaja out about how unfair it was and how the head of state probably did it. Amaka doesn't know what really happened, it seems. She talks about how Auntie Fuma works 2 jobs. She works at a community college and she works at a drugstore. Now, this is important. It's just a small detail, but we know when she had a conversation with her friend's like, you want to go to America, be treated as a secondhand citizen. So Auntie Fuma worked at the University of Nigeria. She worked at a very big, important university in her country. And now she's working at a community college. So she has less prestige, and she's also working at a drugstore. So, you know, she had to sacrifice that prestige to be in America, but she's able to provide for her family. She's getting paid. They have opportunities. So it's like a give and a take of, you know, if it was worth it for her to leave. Amaka says everyone's getting fat. The food is so cheap. They have all this food, so everyone's getting fat. No more boiling rotten meat. Obiora got a scholarship to a private school. He's doing great. Then Kambili updates us on your favorite, Father Amadi. He writes Kambili long letters, and Amaka's like, oh, you and Father Amadi write each other lovey-dovey letters? But Kimberly's like, no, they're not lovey-dovey. They're just long letters. Like they're pen pals and they just, have these long discussions back and forth. Kimberly carries the letters with her because she says Father Amati taught her she was worthy, taught her that she wasn't this insignificant, awful thing like how Papa treated her, that she wasn't filled with sin, that she wasn't evil, that she was worthy of being loved, and that she should have confidence. And so carrying those letters with her helps her remember that. Something got erased here. That's what happens when you have children messing around with your computers. So it says he told her that. What it should say is, it was a quote from the book, where he says that she should not seek out the why because some questions don't have answers, essentially. It says, some months ago, he wrote that he did not want me to seek the whys because there are some things that happen for which we can formulate no whys, for which whys simply do not exist and perhaps are not necessary. So he's basically giving her advice on how to move on. Don't get too caught up in why things happened, why these certain things are happening to you and your family. Just try to move on and keep living. All right, so now, page 3 or 4, 3 pages left in the book. Jaja comes out of the cell to meet them for lunch. Mama has prepared, or rather, her cook has prepared this really fancy meal. She has nice china, she has silverware. Jaja's just going to eat with his hands. His clothes are stained. He's covered in scabs. Kimberly says we don't get up to hug him because he does not like that. She talks about the scabs he has all over his skin that she can see. He's got some kind of terrible skin condition that they haven't been able to get treated while he's in the jail. All right, right to the story about the prison in Anugu. All right, so the good news Kimberly shares. She's like, you're getting out for real this time. And at first he thinks that she means out of this old crowded cell. He's like, well, I kind of like the guys here. Like, it's kind of, nice. And then she's like, no, you're getting out. Like, you're going to be free. He doesn't really respond to that. She says his eyes have hardened. You have to imagine that being in this type of condition for almost 3 years, you've had to, close off pieces of yourself to survive. So, I mean, if I were Jaja and I was getting that news, I would probably just be like, I'll believe it when I see it, right? I'm not going to get excited about this because who knows, right? He'll be happy when he gets out. Maybe. I was going to say we'll see, but we won't because they don't tell us that part. All right. But what does happen is Jaja notices that Mama's scarf is loose. And Kimberly's like, Jaja never, notices anything about us. So perhaps part of him is starting to wake up once he realizes that he's about to get out. So Kimberly and Mama leave the cell. Jaja's time is up. Well, not the cell, the dining area. And Kimberly starts making plans for when Jaja gets out. She's like, we'll take him to Nsukka. We'll take him to America to visit Auntie Fuba. She's like, we can plant oranges and Jaja can plant purple hibiscus. And then she starts laughing and she and Mama are hugging. The very last paragraph of the book, Kimberly says, above, clouds like dyed cotton wool hang low. So low I feel I can reach out and squeeze the moisture from them. The new rains will come down soon. So, new rains. Think of the Lion King, the end of the Lion King, the rains, and then the new baby, right? So this idea that rain is a rebirth, rain is cleansing, rain brings new life. This is just like Kimberly's bath in the rainwater in chapter 14, when I talked to you guys about how, bathing in the rain, that shows that she's being reborn, that she is going to, she's going to survive, she's going to carry on. This time, though, it's not Kimberly that's being reborn, it's her family, okay? Jaja's getting out, Jaja's going to get a new chance at life. Mama, hopefully, once Jaja's out, maybe she'll snap out of this guilt and this distress she's been in. So the book ends on a hopeful note. The family has a new chance. They escaped Papa. Things immediately went wrong because they did so in through murdering him, but now they have a chance to really come back together and be the family they always should have been. Love this book, y'all. Love this book. Okay, so now the question for you is, do you like this ending? Specifically, the last chapter? Did you find out everything you wanted to know? Or more interestingly, do you like how everything played out in chapter 16? Do you like that Papa died? I mean, I think most of us wanted something to happen to Papa, so that's good, but do you think he should have died or he should have been punished in some way? Do you like that Mama was the one that did it? Do you like that Jaja took the blame? There are so many different ways that this could have gone. So here's what we're going to do if you've made it to the end of this video, and I'll tell everyone in a gazillion ways like I do, but we're going to have a discussion next week about this topic. And then you hear first, if you're watching this video, you get this exclusive new information. Your test next week is going to be rewrite the ending of the book. Here's what you can do. You can decide, hey, I want to change chapter 16. I don't like the way this played out. I don't want Mama to have poisoned him, or I don't want Jaja to take the blame. So you can change that up. Or you can be like, I like how this played out, but I want to hear what Mama really thought. I want to hear it from Mama's point of view. So you can rewrite it as Mama, or you can be like, I really want to know what Jaja's thinking when he says he did it. So I'm going to do it from Jaja's point of view. So that's going to be your test, writing me 3 paragraphs, either changing the ending of the book or doing it from a different point of view. It's going to be so fun. I can't wait to read them. Spring break, I don't have any plans because we're on quarantine, so I'm just going to be reading all these different endings to my favorite book. Your test is like an early birthday present to me. I'm so smart. I hope you love this book as much as I did. See you later. This is the fun part where I smile weirdly while I try to stop the recording.